for your listening enjoyment, John Lund as Johnny Dollar.
This is Ed Murphy, Johnny. Keystone Mutual.
Oh, hi, Ed.
And that's so good, Johnny. Could you come over to the office right away?
Well, sure, Ed, but
I don't want to go into it on the phone, Johnny. It's going to be quite a shock to you. It's about Ben Bryson.
Ben Bryson?
Yeah, a good friend of yours, isn't he?
Yeah, he was. Too bad he had to die that way.
You're wrong, Johnny. Too bad he didn't die a year sooner. Come on over to the office.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Keystone Mutual Assurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Ben Bryson matter. Expense account item 1, $2.40. Taxi fare from my apartment to the Keystone building and the office of Ed Murphy, Vice President.
I thought as much of Ben as I would my own son. And watched him work his way up to the top job in this company, Chief Adjuster for the West Coast, head of our San Francisco claims office. Not bad for a young man. I was proud of Ben.
Yeah, I know, Ed.
And then that accident last month. Foggy night, he missed a curve. Drove his car off a cliff into the Pacific Ocean. And that was that. The end.
Only it wasn't the end, or you wouldn't call me over here.
No, it wasn't, Johnny. Within 2 weeks after Ben's death, we started getting complaints from some of our clients out there. Demands for adjustment on claims Ben had reported paid weeks before. Requests for settlement, so on. We couldn't figure it, but we went to work quietly, and we found out.
Oh? You found out what?
Ben's accounts had been doctored for a long time, Johnny. They were short, way short. In the months before he was killed, he'd embezzled nearly $80,000 from the company.
Not Ben Bryson, Ed. Anybody else, yes. But money never meant anything to Ben.
Johnny, here's a ticket to San Francisco. Plane leaves in 2 hours.
Now, wait a second, Ed. I think I'd like to pass this one.
Yeah, so would I, but we can't, you know that. Left a lot of questions, Johnny. They've got to be answered. And $80,000 of the company's money is missing. Has to be accounted for.
Yeah, I know, but maybe you ought to get somebody else, Ed.
I'd be awful grateful if you'd do it, Johnny. You'd have the best chance. You knew him. He was your friend.
Yeah, he was my friend.
I know how you feel. Johnny.
All right, Ed. Somebody's got to do it. And like you said, Ben was my friend. Let's have the ticket. Expense account item 2, $8.90. Tips, incidentals, and taxi from the San Francisco airport to the Fairmont Hotel, where I taxied to Ben's last address, the Franciscan Arms apartment. Ben had always been the two-room bachelor walk-up type, but the Franciscan Arms was equal parts of glitter, glass, swank, and price, with a uniformed doorman, bar off the lobby, and a manager with a gardenia in his lapel. A real gardenia.
I'm most desirous of assisting you in every way possible, Mr. Dollar, but I'm terribly afraid there's simply very little I can tell you about the late Mr. Bryson.
Discretion, you mean? Policy of the house?
No, of course we do try to protect privacy of our residents.
Even to the extent of turning down $20?
Well, under the circumstances. Thank you. Gratuities of this nature are always welcome. Pardon me. Yes? Oh, yes, Madame Rendrick. Yes, I'll send one of the boys up, little Coco. Yes, right away, Madame Rendrick. Nasty little poodle. She ought to walk it herself, take some weight off her. Now, about Mr. Bryson. He'd been our guest for about 6 months at the time of his tragic accident. A true gentleman, bon vivant, and, well, on the crassly materialistic side, a free spender.
I'm sorry, 20 is all I'll go for.
Mr. Dollar.
What about visitors? Friends here in the building?
None that I can recall. Oh, except Mrs. Kern, of course.
Mrs. Kern?
One of the loveliest and most charming guests we've ever had the pleasure. Pardon? Yes? Yes, Madame Rendrick. The boy is on his way. Oh, yes. Well, please tell Coco I'm so sorry. Coco, what a ridiculous name for a dog.
Yeah, now about Mrs. Kern.
Well, she and Mr. Bryson were inseparable.
And Mr. Kern?
Deceased. Early this year, I believe.
Wonder if I could talk to Mrs. Kern.
I'm afraid not, Mr. Dollar. She's been gone for 10 days.
Gone? Where?
I haven't the faintest idea. She'll be back eventually, though, Ford. She still has her apartment here. Oh, that poor dear. Such a tragic coincidence.
What do you mean, tragic coincidence?
Well, as I understand it, Mrs. Kern's husband also died in some sort of accident.
Sure, I've been tending bar here for 2 years, Mr. Dollar. I was here before Mr. Bryson moved in, and I'm still here now that he's gone. I guess I knew as much about him as a bartender usually knows. If you were his friend, though, how come you're asking me the questions?
Well, I hadn't seen him for quite a while. He got out of touch. You know how it goes.
Yeah, friends drift apart. It's a mixed-up world, getting more mixed up all the time. Oh, yes, sir, the usual. Wants a double martini. Always wants a double martini. Yeah, Mr. Bryson spent a lot of time in here. Always with Alvy, of course.
Alvy?
Mrs. Kern, young widow that lives here in the building. Everybody calls her Alvy. You know, makes friends easy.
And one of her friends was Ben.
The main one. With her every night. I guess he was nuts about her.
He was nuts about something.
Well, can't say as I blame him. You ought to see her. Personally, though, I'd hate to be married to a doll like that. She'd go right through a man, leave him high and dry. A doll like that's born to be a widow.
Was Ben in here the night he was killed?
Yeah, left about 9. 2 hours later, he was dead.
He left alone, I suppose.
No, Alvy was with him.
Expense account item 3. $20 tip to the apartment house manager. And $1.25 taxi to my hotel. I couldn't figure the next step. Alvy Kern was the key, and without her, I was stopped cold. None of Ben's old friends had seen him since he started going around with her. His office girl knew how to type and not much else. It was a cold trail. $80,000 had disappeared, and Ben had driven off a cliff and died. There weren't many answers left behind. Then, 2 days later, I got a phone call. Johnny Dollar.
Oh, this is Maurice, Mr. Dollar. It's the Franciscan Arms.
Oh, yeah.
I have some very interesting information.
Well?
Well,
Oh, all right, $20. What's the information?
well, I've just received a letter from Mrs. Kern. She wants me to forward her mail in care of American Express, Panama City, Panama.
Panama City. Okay, Maurice, thanks. Thanks a lot. Expense account item 4, $92.47. Hotel, telegrams, and incidentals in San Francisco. Expense account item 5, $267.20. Airfare and incidentals to Panama City, Panama.
Su atención, por favor. Remata número 508 para la ciudad de Guatemala y Nuevo Nuevo.
Un momentito, señor. You are Senor Dollar, no?
Why, yes.
El capitán de Vano of the Panama Federal Police, a sus órdenes. We have received your radiogram, senor, and I have been instructed to cooperate with you intentionally.
Oh, good. What about Mrs. Kern? Had any luck finding her?
But of course, she is registered at the Hotel Primesto. Most unusual. It is small, located on the waterfront. One would think to find her in surroundings more cheap.
Is she alone?
So I am informed. So, what are your plans, Senor Dollar?
Well, I want to talk to her first. After that, we'll see. I'll check with you later, Captain.
I've heard your name before, Mr. Dollar. Then Mr. Bryson mentioned you.
Was it Ben or Mr. Bryson?
It has been. Please, I'd rather not talk about it, Mr. Dollar. Ever since that terrible accident, all I wanted to do is forget. That's why I came down here. To get away and try to forget.
You thought quite a lot of him, huh?
We were going to be married.
Well, too bad it didn't work out. You'd have had a good life. Ben's wealth and your...
Well, I had the idea that he'd just worked for an insurance company.
And live the way he did? Oh, come now, Mrs. Kern.
Well, actually, that side of it didn't seem to matter much. My husband left me quite well off, and
How long were you married before he died?
only 10 months.
Oh, you do have bad luck, don't you?
Mr. Dollar, I'm not sure I understand this attitude.
Relax. Here. Have a cigarette.
No, thanks. My vices don't include smoking.
Oh? Mind if I do?
Of course not.
Thanks. You have a suite here, Mrs. Kern? Or just this room?
Just this room? Why?
Well, then I imagine this door leads to the bath.
What are you doing?
It does. But it's empty.
Of course it's empty.
Then the only other possibility is that closet.
Stay away from there.
There was cigarette smoke in the air when I came in, stubs in the ashtray. If you don't smoke, where did they come from?
There's no one here. Stay back or I'll...
Look, Mrs. Kern, turning out the lights may be romantic, but it's not the best... Oh! I shook my head trying to clear it, finally staggered to my feet and found the light switch. Albie Kern was cowering against the wall, staring at me, scared but not saying anything. I stumbled toward the door. The corridor was empty.
You're wrong, Johnny. There wasn't anybody here. I'm the one who hit you.
To hit like that, you'd have to grow a fist 3 times your size. No. I know what the game is now. I should have caught on sooner, but I didn't.
There's no game. I don't know what you mean.
Look, only one person I know tears cigarettes apart and shreds the paper that way.
No, Johnny, you're wrong.
The two of you in it together all along. They didn't find a body because there wasn't any body. He's still alive, hiding out. I know who hit me. It was Ben Bryson.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Expense account item 5, 40 cents, U.S. currency, for a handful of aspirin tablets. Ben, or whoever it was who slugged me, had got away from the hotel without being caught. I gave Ben's description to Captain Devano, and I went to bed. At breakfast in the morning, I still hadn't heard from Devano, but I did get a repeat performance from my other little playmate.
Good morning, Johnny.
Oh, good morning, Mrs. Kern.
Mind if I sit down?
Not if you don't double up your fist again.
I can explain that, Johnny.
With all night to think it over? I'll bet you can.
I mean, really. I wasn't the one who hit you, of course. It was silly to claim such a thing, but it wasn't Ben either, Johnny. You don't mind if I call you Johnny. I mean, you were a close friend.
All right, Mrs. Kern. If it wasn't you and it wasn't Ben, who was it?
Well, the name doesn't really matter. Let's just say it was a friend who'd rather not be brought into the picture.
And let's also say that wasn't a bad attempt. But I still don't buy it.
It's true, Johnny. Ben was drowned in San Francisco when his car ran off into the ocean. He's dead.
He can't be dead in San Francisco and still be tearing up cigarettes in Panama.
I did that. I didn't smoke them. But I tore them that way. I picked up the habit from Ben. You took a guess and you were wrong. So forget it. Let's be friends.
Sorry, I can't afford it.
Do you think I sell my friendship?
It cost Ben $80,000 of the company's money. Did you get half of it, Mrs. Kern?
No.
How much did you have left?
Stop it. Can't you understand anything? Ben is dead.
No, he's not. But I wish he were.
What do you mean?
Just that.
But he was your friend.
That's right. I thought a lot of him. It hit pretty hard when I learned he'd been stealing from his company.
Johnny.
So I took the job of digging into the mess and trying to straighten it out. And now I find out he's still alive.
No.
So now I've got to catch him and take him back. That's going to be even tougher.
Oh, you wouldn't have to, Johnny. That is, if he were alive.
No, I wouldn't have to, but I'm going to.
Johnny.
Permiso, Senor Dollar.
Oh, morning, Captain.
It is possible to speak a word with you, Senor.
Sure. Excuse me, Mrs. Kern.
Certainly.
I did not wish to mention the matter before the senora.
Turned up something?
Senor, My men have located Senor Bryson.
Here? This is the place?
Si, senor. This man is living in one of the little fishing boats which are tied to the embarcadero. The number 3 one, which is blue painted, you see?
Yeah, I see it. Well, it sort of figures. If he wanted to hide out, this would be safer than living in a hotel. You're pretty sure it's him, huh?
Yes, sabe, senor, but I think so. Miguel Pascaro, who is on the boat, said this man from 1 month ago and paid plenty money just to live on the boat tied up at the shore. And he is like you described, senor. I think so.
All right. I'll go on board and talk to him. I think it'll work better if I go alone.
Si, senor, I wait for you here.
Good. Well? Ben? Ben? Where are you?
Cabin's unlocked. Come on in.
Well, it's been a long time, Ben.
Come in, Johnny. Have a seat.
Thanks.
You'll have to overlook this litter. Temporary quarters. Johnny, why did it have to be you?
It had to be somebody, Ben. Sooner or later. You should have known that.
I guess. How'd you get onto it? Alvy?
Yeah, I traced her. Followed her down here.
She fouled up, Johnny. She wasn't supposed to come for 6 months, and the first thing I know, she's here. Said she couldn't wait.
Why did you do it, Ben?
You've seen Alvy. Do you need any more answers?
She worth the price?
For me? Sure. This face of mine always stopped the dames.
And Alvy was different?
She fell as hard as I did. I didn't know women like her even existed. She's for me all the way.
But you still had to buy her.
Mm-mm.
Price tag, $80,000.
No, you're wrong. It was only that Alvy'd always lived high, and I had to live that way, too, to be around her.
What were your plans, Ben? What were you going to do?
Go to Rio, Argentina, maybe, start a new life together. That's why I needed all that money. I didn't spend that much.
And Alvy agreed to that idea?
Sure, she was all for it.
Then why did she keep her apartment in San Francisco?
She didn't. Oh, you're wrong, Johnny. Somebody gave you a bum steer. She cut loose from everything. She told me she did.
Well, we can check on it when we get back there.
Easy, Johnny, easy. I've had this gun on you ever since you came aboard. Now, don't make me use it.
Would you use it, Ben?
I'm up a dead end, Johnny, and I know it. But I'm still going on as far as I can. Don't try to stop me, Johnny. I don't want to kill you. But if I have to, I will.
I let him go. He backed out the cabin door, closed it behind him, and barred it on the outside. I heard his steps cross the deck and run along the wharf. And I waited for Captain Devano to call out, challenge him. But the only sound was a car motor starting up and speeding away. Then I heard somebody come running down the wharf.
Senor Dollar, are you there?
Yeah. Get the door open. Where is he? What happened?
He's gone, senor. He takes the car. It is me to blame, senor. I'm not alert before I know
Never mind. Where's the nearest telephone? It's been over an hour. I should have found him by now.
Oh, they will, senor. In Panama, we do not have so many roads, and they're all, blockaded.
Well, he might have slipped through before we got to a phone.
Oh, there was no time at the hotel. They say he... Aquí está. Capitán Devano. Sí, yo soy cerquito del mar. Sí. No.
What is it?
Qué lástima, sí. Cuídelo bien, ¿eh? Vamos ahorita. Adiós. They have been found, Senor Dollar.
Yeah? Where?
They have tried to go by the old road on the cliff. It is too dangerous. They have missed the curve and go into the ocean.
What?
The car is under 10 meters of water. There is no signs of life.
Expense account item 6, $92. To charter a power launch and hire the services of a diver. The sea was calm, but the water wasn't clear enough to see more than just the outline of the car lying on the bottom. We waited for the diver to come up, and I looked up at the cliff towering over us. There's been another cliff like that in San Francisco.
Yes, senor. He's coming up.
Oh, good.
¿Qué pasó, Piano?
Espérate. El cuerpo de la señora sí está abajo. Pero es el único. No hay otro.
¿Seguro?
Sí, señora. No hay otro abajo.
What's the matter, Captain?
We have found only the body of Mrs. Gorrell. Senor Bryson's body is not in the car.
The same pattern. A car plunging off a cliff into the ocean and a body missing from it. Only this time I knew it wasn't fake. Ben couldn't have done a thing like that to Albie. Not to Albie. I looked up at the cliff. Steep, but not vertical. A car would have rolled, bounced, coming down. I had Captain Devano run the launch in close, and I jumped onto the rocks and started to climb. I'd made it halfway to the top before I found him, lying jammed in a crevasse, broken and dying.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah.
We didn't make it, Johnny.
You didn't have a chance, Ben.
I know. It's kind of funny. This, I mean, just like we did it in San Francisco. I mean, this time it's real.
Yeah. This time it's real.
Yeah.
Better not try to talk, Ben. We'll get some ropes down from the top. Get you out of here.
No use, Johnny. Is Albie...
She's dead, Ben.
You were right about her, Johnny.
Forget it.
I made her come with me in the car. Held a gun on her. She got mad. Spilled the whole story.
Ben,
She
don't...
didn't love me. Not any of the time. She admitted it. But I thought she did. And that was fine. Nobody else ever let me even think it.
Ben, it's no good talking this
So
way.
it won't matter, Johnny. Like you said, I don't have a chance. But you know something? I think I'd do the same thing again. Maybe there's no answer for a guy like me.
I don't know, Ben. I'm not a judge.
Kind of figures, you know, I'll be dying too. I bought her and paid for her, Johnny. I ought to be able to take her with me. After all, I...
Easy, Ben.
Johnny, the money, what's left of it, is inside my coat. Give it to Ed. Tell him I'm sorry. Make him understand.
He will.
You too, Johnny. I'm sorry. You don't know what else to say?
Forget it.
I don't think I'd do it again. Crazy, eh?
Now the times we all get crazy, Ben.
Yeah. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks.
Go on, Ben. Expense account item 7, $26.30. Hotel, taxi, and miscellaneous while in Panama. Expense account item 8, $312.90 airfare and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total, $823.82. I'm enclosing a cashier's check for $72,652 recovered from Ben Bryson, embezzler. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
That plane crash, Johnny. Did you hear?
Yeah, I just turned off my radio.
It's horrible.
Who is this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sam Harris, Columbia.
Oh, yeah, sure. Does your company carry the policies in that airline?
Yes, but I'm not thinking of that. That crash was planned.
Oh, they're definite about it now?
Yes, an explosion. Some kind of a bomb. There were 13 people killed in the plane, and they don't know how many in the houses it crashed into. We've got to place responsibility. The company wants to do whatever it can. We've got to find whoever is responsible.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Harris. You want me to go out there?
Yes, we do. The airline representative is a man named Reed. Go out and do everything you can.
Now, for just a moment, what do you say we take time out to talk about star routes? Never heard of them? Well, I don't suppose many of us have, but they exist, all right. Now, those of us who live in cities or in other localities where regular letter carriers drop off our mail probably never wonder how mail is handled in places where almost no one lives, where there's hardly anything and not much reason for going there. But there is someone who thought about it and did something about it, our Postmaster General. He saw to it that folks who live in these out-of-the-way places receive their mail. Of course, the post office doesn't operate regular mail routes to these places because there isn't enough mail to warrant a regular postman. But the people in isolated spots, such as prospectors in the Nevada mountains, or trappers in the Alaska wilderness, or Louisiana bayous, are entitled to their mail. That's why the Post Office Department has set up a system of contracting responsible agencies to deliver mail to out-of-the-way places. These special mailmen follow what are known as star routes. Deliveries are made usually to mailboxes similar to RFD boxes that stand in the middle of some barren waste or along a rarely traveled river. Star route carriers use cars, horses, mules, rowboats, dog sleds, or airplanes, whatever they need to deliver the mail. Sometimes they even walk. Yes, the job of the star route postman is a rugged one. And our hats are off to these little publicized employees of our United States Post Office Department.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Columbia All Risk Insurance Company. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Fairway matter. Expense account item 1, $250, cab fare to the scene of the plane crash, which, as you know, covered quite a bit of territory. The Fairway Airlines plane had taken off at 8:20 p.m., had reached an altitude of no more than 600 feet, and then had crashed, setting two houses afire a short distance from the Springfield-Hartford Airport. I got there a little after 9:30. One house had been partially saved, but the other had been completely demolished. The family of four living in it had been killed. The parents of one child in the first house were not expected to live. And beyond, twisted pieces of the plane were scattered across a field. Fragments still smoking, turned white by the foam from chemical extinguishers. Mr. Reed? Mr. Carl Reed? Mr. Carl Reed?
Hey! Over here!
Please, Mr. Reed, at least go and wait in your car. We'll let you know as soon as we can.
My baby, my baby.
Yes, sir. What did you want?
My name is Dollar. The insurance company.
Insurance company? Good Lord. This is hardly the time to worry about money, is it?
I'm only an investigator. They've hired me to help in any way I can to fix the blame.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Yes. You'll have to excuse me, Mrs. Goodyear. There are some things I have to do. Come along, Mr. Dollar. She doesn't know about the explosion. She thinks there's a chance her daughter wasn't on the plane, but she was. She was the stewardess.
You haven't told her?
I can let her hope for a couple more hours. Oh, why shouldn't I? I've had to tell so many people. Oh, it's horrible. Horrible. I think even worse than if it had been an accident. When you know it was premeditated, when you know someone planned it. What kind of a person would you have to be to plan something like this?
Yeah, it's hard to believe, Mr. Reed.
But we have proof. There was an explosion in an extreme aftersection. Destroyed all the control cables to the tail assembly.
I don't suppose the civil aeronautics man is here yet, huh?
No, but he's on his way. They're sending one of their best, S.W. Nugent. Captain Lenhart of the state police is here, though.
Oh? Well, I'd like to talk to him then. Do you have any idea where he is?
Well, the last I saw him, he was over there by that... Smith. But see the group of men over by the hangar?
Yeah?
He might be there. They collected the bodies there. Made as many identifications as possible.
Look, I know it's bad, Mr. Reed, but don't you go to pieces. That wouldn't help at all.
I'll be all right. I'll see you later.
Yeah. I remembered Captain Jim Lenhart from a case we'd shared last year, and I found him in the group of silent men. Their silence and their expressions told better than words how they felt about the row of sheet-draped bodies on the ground.
How was Reed making out? I thought he was going to pieces a little while ago.
Well, he's still in pretty bad shape.
He's not alone. But it might have been worse. Plane could have been filled.
Yeah. Well, I guess our approach will be to try to find out which victim was the planned victim.
Well, with what we have now, I don't see any other way to start, do you?
No. The possibilities as I see them are murder with a motive, disguised suicide, or a homicidal maniac.
That must cover it. I have men covering the airport and a 2-mile circle around it. Their orders are to question everybody they spot and search every car. I think that's about all we can do tonight.
Well, I'll see you in the morning then. Sorry with you?
Sure is. Glad to have you on the case. Meet you in my office at 9.
Good.
Here's another ambulance. We can get the rest of these poor devils into the morgue and try to find out who they are.
The next morning, the official findings were released. The explosive had been nitroglycerin. It had been detonated by some electrical means, which it was assumed was connected to a timing device that had not yet been found. Captain Lenhart's men had questioned a number of suspicious characters near the airport without result. But Lenhart himself had received an anonymous tip on a possible suspect, a Wilbur Wheeler, who was a member of the ground crew that had serviced the plane just before its takeoff. Wheeler was shown to the captain's office about 40 minutes after I'd gotten there.
Why did you pick me to come up here? Why didn't you get Straker or Mills? They're over me.
It's just routine, Wheeler.
Routine? You must have a reason. I got a right to know if you got a reason, haven't I?
Why do you think we started with you?
Well, I'm asking you, aren't I?
The stewardess who died in that crash, Shirley Goodhue.
I knew her.
We understand that she meant something to you.
Weren't you in love with her?
Yes.
We understand you made quite a pest of yourself, phoning her at home and waiting for her at the airport.
And then a week or so ago, you learned she was going to marry the co-pilot who was killed. What's his name?
Bill Strand. Wasn't it, Wheeler?
Yes. You're saying that you think I caused that crash.
Well, you wanted to know why you were here.
I told you it was just routine, Wheeler. And it would have been if you'd acted differently, but it sounds as though you're trying to hide some facts from us.
I won't anymore. I don't have any reason to.
Well, then why did you?
Well, I don't know. I've been going crazy ever since I heard about it last night. I was still at the field. I got sick, and I had to go home.
We heard about that.
I got home and turned on my radio. Then I heard what caused the crash, the explosion. And I knew that a lot of things I've said and a lot of things I'd done were going to make trouble for me. Even getting sick and coming home was bad.
What were some of the other things?
Well, I said some pretty bad things to Shirley when I heard she was going to marry Strand. And I had a fight with him.
You had a fight with him over the same thing?
I guess for me it was really over that. He ordered me around one day, and I didn't like it. And that's how it started. He beat me up pretty bad. Said he'd have my job. And I told him that I'd see the day his plane with him in it would be plastered all over some hill. I know what it sounds like now, but it didn't mean anything. It was just talk.
It was plenty of that, all right. You heard enough, Dollar?
I think so.
And that's all, Wheeler.
I can go?
Yeah. Nobody'd be stupid enough to compromise himself the way you did and then pull a job like this.
All right. I sure made a lot of mistakes. I know that.
Yeah. Just be around where we can find you if we want to talk anymore.
I can't go back to that airport, sir. I was going to call them and quit, if it's all right with you.
Just be where we can find you, that's all.
I will. I'm sorry.
A lot of people are, Whitley.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Collins, the man just leaving my office, name is Wheeler. Wilbur Wheeler. Have two of the boys get on him and stay. I'll arrange to relieve them tonight.
Oh?
Yeah, thanks. What do you think?
Well, I'd like to know what's in Wheeler's background. And I'd like to get a psychiatrist's reaction, wouldn't you?
We'll learn about him. Now, let's get on with this list of passengers and see what we can get from their survivors.
We spent the rest of the day in the efforts of 6 more of Captain Lenhart's men preparing files on the 10 dead passengers. One file contained nothing but a name, Rupert Stone. Gotten from the ticket office records is that of a man who had paid cash for space to Augusta, Maine. The Hartford address he'd given was non-existent, and the phone number rang a bakery where no one had ever heard of a Rupert Stone. That one we dropped until the identification of the bodies was complete. Lenhart and I started out to follow up a couple of the others that evening.
This is rotten work.
Yeah, check.
Mrs. Graham?
Yes?
This is Mr. Dollar, and I'm Captain Lenhart of the State Police. We'd like to talk to you about the death of your husband.
No, I have talked too much. It only keeps in my mind the things I saw in that field and the women crying.
We know, Mrs. Graham, but it's our job to fix the responsibility. We only want to ask you a few questions.
You'd want to help find whoever caused all those deaths if you could, wouldn't you?
How can I help?
May we come in?
All right. But only a little while. I haven't slept.
Thank you.
No, Skipper, be quiet. He knows, poor old dog. And very soon he will die. Then I will be alone. Oh, please sit down.
Thank you, Mrs. Graham.
Thank you. Mrs. Graham, your husband...
Yes?
He bought space to Boston, didn't he?
Yes. Martin's brother is buried there. Martin was a religious man, and quite often he would go to visit his brother's grave.
I see.
I think that's all we needed, wasn't it, Dollar, to recheck his plans?
Yeah, I think that was all.
Then we better go. We're sorry we had to bother you, Mrs. Graham.
And thanks very much for seeing us.
It's all right.
Thanks very much. Oh, don't bother to get up. You don't have to come to the door with us. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Mrs. Graham.
Quiet, Skipper. He won't come back.
I couldn't cut it. I think that dog did it. Sorry.
Don't apologize to me.
This hasn't happened to me since I was a rookie.
Why don't we have a drink on the way downtown?
Well, it suits me. You know Al's on Front Street?
Yeah, that's fine. Any place.
I'll phone in from there and have Collins check me off duty.
leave.
No, he had a phone. Here, I'll catch it.
It's $1.60, sir.
That's good enough. Keep it.
Oh, thank you. Oh, here he comes.
Drink up, Dollar. Guess I'll have to waste mine because it seems I'm not off duty.
What happened?
We're back to that stewardess again. The explosive has been checked to her equipment. Lab men say some twisted metal they found used to be a first aid box and that it was in her flight bag.
Well, that brings Wilbur Wheeler back again, too, huh?
He's being picked up now.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? He was a president of several firsts. He was the first vice president to become president through the death of the chief executive, the first president to be married in office, and the first president against whom impeachment proceedings were introduced. He graduated from William and Mary College at 17, and at 26 was elected to Congress. During his administration, a treaty was signed which opened the door to Oriental trade for the first time. If you don't have his name by now, here's one more important clue. On the last day of his term, he signed a resolution providing for the annexation of Texas. Who was he? John Tyler, 10th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
I don't like the idea of being loaded into a police car twice in one day with everybody in the block gawking at me.
A lot of people have been loaded into police cars today. They were glad to come in and do anything they could to help clear this up.
Well, I want to help, too. I didn't mean it that way.
We're glad to hear that. How long have you worked for the Fairway Airline?
Oh, about a year and a half, I think.
What'd you do before that?
I want to know why you're asking questions like that. Why did you bring me back here?
Because some new evidence has turned up, that's why.
What does it have to do with me?
It has to do with Shirley Goodhue.
I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you're talking about. I told you everything there was about her and me.
Did you know that she carried a first aid kit aboard the plane last night?
First aid kit? I don't know what you mean.
You don't?
After working there a year and a half?
What did you do on the plane?
Oh, brought food on, checked the water, a few other things.
Things that the stewardess would be involved in. She'd be there with you, wouldn't she?
Yeah, but I don't know what you're driving at. I don't know what you mean.
Where did she put her first aid kit, Wheeler?
Well, why do you ask me that? I don't remember. I didn't notice. They had a place they kept it, but I didn't notice.
Was it open?
I don't know.
What was in it?
Well, if I knew what you meant, I don't know why you're asking me these things.
Look, each stewardess has a kit. They take it off the plane when they leave, and they bring it aboard when they report for work.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The explosive, Wheeler, the nitroglycerin that was hidden in her first aid kit.
Well, I didn't put it there. Well, that's what you mean, but I didn't do it. I don't know anything about it.
13 people in the plane, Wheeler. 4 people in one of the houses that crashed. Probably 2 more in the other.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
Wilbur Wheeler was turned over to the police psychiatrist. The web that was tightening around him was only circumstantial. And the question was, did he know that he could keep on saying he hadn't done it, and that we couldn't do anything without physical proof? Or was he innocent? Our last move that night was to go to Wheeler's room. We were looking for a wire that could be checked to that used with the explosive. We didn't find that or anything else that could be a definite help. But a couple of things we didn't find seemed strange.
Hey, he said he came home and turned on his radio. There isn't a radio here. A newspaper's dollar, see any?
No, I don't.
No, there aren't any. Unless he's got them out of sight someplace.
Well, why would he do that? No. None in the wastebasket. You'd think a man so close to this would want to find out what the papers were saying, wouldn't you? Guilty or innocent.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, Dollar. I'm bushed. Let's drop it for tonight.
The next day, Lenhart and I talked to the psychiatrist, who'd spent a couple of hours with Wheeler. The doctor said that Wheeler was definitely suffering from a severe guilt complex. But whether that meant he had actually committed the crime or had only wished secretly that harm would come to Miss Goodhue wasn't clear yet. In terms of evidence, that meant nothing. The lack of a radio or newspaper in his room, the doctor tossed off as meaning merely that Wheeler was hiding from actuality. As Captain Lenhart put it,
if that doctor thinks he helped my mental condition, he's wrong.
That afternoon, a development came from the Fairway office of Carl Reed. He'd been unable to locate another of his stewardesses. And when finally he'd sent someone to her apartment, she'd been found, shot to death. We met Mr. Reed at the scene of the second crime.
I simply had to get back on the job today. 2 of our flights were delayed yesterday because of my going to pieces.
You better watch it now, Mr. Reed.
I don't know if I...
Now, just take it easy. You tried to phone this girl and tell her to report for one of your flights. And when you sent somebody out here, she was found dead, huh?
Yes, exactly. I hadn't tried to contact Alice before because I...
Good.
Well, I knew that she and Miss Goodhue had been close friends and that she must have felt almost responsible for her death.
Why, Mr. Reed?
Why? Well, she was scheduled for the flight the other night. I thought you knew that.
No, we didn't. I wish we had.
But I told you. That night at the scene of the crash. I was talking to her mother, Mrs. Goodhue.
Yes, I remember that. You said she thought there was a chance her daughter wasn't on the plane.
But I told you the other girl was scheduled.
No, Mr. Reed. You made it sound like Mrs. Goodhue thought her daughter was on a different flight. You didn't say anything about another stewardess.
Good Lord.
It's all right, Mr. Reed. The human mind isn't infallible, but it can correct its mistakes. Tell us now.
Well, that's all right. Well, with everything else, I suppose it didn't seem important. I know our procedure is less exact than the regular companies. You see, the girls often traded flights.
When did you find out about this trade?
Well, not until Mrs. Goodhue told me that her daughter had gone to work that night.
You didn't discuss it with her by any chance?
No, I didn't discuss it. Well, that night and all of it,
Then I think we'd better go see Mrs. Goodhue, Dollar.
Of course, I'll tell you anything I can.
We've just learned that your daughter wasn't scheduled to be on that plane, Mrs. Goodhue.
Well, no, she wasn't.
We understand that she and Alice Turner exchanged flights quite often. But do you know how it happened the other night?
No. Shirley was here at home and the phone rang.
What time was that, please?
Oh, I hardly remember. We'd had an early dinner and...
The plane took off at 8:25. How long before then?
Well, an hour at least. No, it was less than that because Shirley left in such a hurry.
What did she say?
Well, she said that one of the girls was sick and she was going to take her place on the flight. Just up to Maine and back. She said she'd be home soon after midnight. I've never liked rushed decisions, and I've always worried when Shirley left in a hurry like that.
She did it quite often?
Yes, they all did it. 6 of them live here in Hartford. I never liked it.
Did she trade more often with Alice Turner than with the others? Do you know?
Oh, I don't think so. It was an agreement. If one of them couldn't work, one of the others would fill in.
Then it's possible that Alice Turner called some of the others before she called your daughter.
Yes, it's quite possible.
The horror of the crime led to the solving of it. Late that afternoon, I'd gone back to my apartment building, and in the corridor, just outside my door...
Hey, your name, Dollar?
Yeah. Can I help you?
I want to talk to you. I think we'd better go inside.
Well, I'm pretty busy.
Yes, I know you are, but I want to talk to you about the plane explosion.
Oh. All right. Come on in.
I can't stand it anymore. I read about Alice Turner this afternoon. I just can't stand it, that's all.
What do you know about
Well,
it?
just that all those people killed for nothing, and I'm partly to blame, too, and I'm ready to give myself up.
Well, why did you come to me, then? Why didn't you go to the police?
Oh, you can talk to somebody like you. The police are always building the case for the estate.
Okay. They'll get you anyway.
Yeah, but you'll know what I really said, see?
All right, go ahead.
His name is Church. Arthur Church.
Who's Arthur Church?
He's the chief pusher for a bigger narcotics outfit than you ever thought there was.
We've had a few cranks in this case already.
I know, crank. What do you mean, Emmett? Alice Turner was carrying the stuff for him. She wanted to get out, and Church wouldn't let her. So she got smart and set up a meeting with a federal man the other night. And that's why she was killed, and all the rest of them, too.
Doesn't make sense. If she'd made this date, don't you think the federal authorities would have been in on this?
Well, she didn't tell him who she was or what she did.
How do you know all this?
I'm the one that told her Church was onto her. I told her to drop it. Sure, and not to go. That's my part of it. I told her Church was onto it and that he'd stop her somewhere. I told her to drop it no matter what.
I don't like it. No. Why would she put Shirley Goodhue on the spot?
Alice didn't know what would happen. I did. Who could know that he'd do anything like this?
Well, why did he? If what you say is true, he could have stopped her some other way.
That's my doing, too. I kept her out of sight, you see, and the other night I told her not to do anything, to stay where she was, and not to go to the field, and then she believed me. And then she called Shirley Goodhue and told her she was sick, and that's why she didn't go.
Do you know where the explosive was that wrecked the plane?
Yes, I read today, the first aid kit. That's where Alice carried the stuff.
Well, it was her kit. How did the Goodhue girl get it?
Yeah, because she was called at the last minute, you see, and Alice had her things in a locker at the field. Look, Mr. Dollar, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't telling the truth. It's a peddling rap for me, don't you see? But I've been reading these stories about the people that get killed and the families that are left, and I couldn't take it. I knew the truth, and then when Alice was killed, well, there was no reason for me not telling what I knew.
Are you ready to go to the police?
You heard what I got to say. I'm giving myself up, so...
Do you know where this Arthur Church is?
Yes. He and I live together.
And you'll come with us?
If I have to. Yes. I'll take you up there.
This is it, Moran?
This is where I left him.
You go in then. Tell him who's here.
Just call him naturally.
All right. Ward, are you here?
I'm here, yes.
Oh, out of the way. I got him.
Expense account item 2, miscellaneous, $23.45. Expense account total, $25.95. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as...
Johnny Dollar.
Is this Mr. Dollar, the insurance gentleman?
That's right.
Well, this is Captain Lyle Woodstock. I was given a message that you telephoned.
Oh, yes, I did. Your insurance company wanted me to look into this trouble with your wife. Wonder when I could see you.
At your convenience. But it's not trouble yet. It's quite possible that nothing is wrong at all.
Oh? Well, I understood that you were worried about her disappearance. That you hadn't heard from her in over a week. Isn't that it?
Yes, but I'll explain it all to you. But as I said, in spite of her absence, it's entirely possible that nothing is wrong at all.
All right, Captain Woodstock. I'll be out to talk to you this afternoon.
While we take a breather from our program, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you know who Uncle Sam's lawyer is? If your answer is the Attorney General, you're absolutely right. But being legal advisor to the president and other governmental agencies is only part of his job. His main task is running the Department of Justice, which makes sure that the laws passed by Congress are carried out and that lawyers are available when the government must be represented in court. Let me give you an example. Suppose there is some question concerning the amount or kind of tax you should pay, or suppose you and the government don't agree as to which of you owns certain land. That's when the Department of Justice steps in to represent the government side of the case. If anyone is brought to trial for counterfeiting, smuggling, gold hoarding, or passport forging, the Department of Justice prosecutes the case. It also handles all matters dealing with legal immigration. And all of this activity is the responsibility of an important member of the President's cabinet, the Attorney General. Just as it is the duty of the United States government to protect each and every one of you, it is the duty of the Attorney General to protect the government of the United States.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Washingtonian Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Celia Woodstock matter. Expense account item 1, $25.50. Car rental and mileage to the Woodstock home, off the highway just east of Bridgeport. There was a large frame house, shuttered against the winter wind blowing across Long Island Sound. Captain Lyle Woodstock, please.
Yes? You are Mr. Dollar?
That's right.
Come inside.
Thanks.
I am Captain Woodstock. It was nice of you to come out. Nasty wind, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't blowing like this in Hartford.
Quite often windy here on the Sound. I'm afraid you'll have to leave your coat here.
Oh, that's all right.
I discharged the servants, all of them. Couldn't stomach their attitudes since Celia's departure. Come along. We'll talk in the library.
Okay.
After you, Mr. Dollar.
Thanks.
I'm afraid I was guilty of a certain amount of deception when I spoke to your Mr. Miller. Through a delicate choice of words, I'm afraid I intimated that I was frightened for Celia's very life. Sit down.
Well, why the deception?
Why, naturally, to interest them in the situation. And with a purpose, Mr. Dollar.
Well, couldn't you afford to hire a private detective?
My good man, I have wasted a considerable amount of money by doing just that. It was from the stumbling idiot of a detective that I received the news of Celia's disappearance.
He was following her?
He had been for a month, until he lost her. I had entertained certain suspicions about Celia.
What's this investigator's name?
Slater. Mr. David Slater. He was recommended as the best in Bridgeport. Considering his dismal failure, you surely understand why I felt it necessary to turn to someone else. My insurance company struck me as a wise choice, since there is a large policy on her life.
All right, I'll talk to this Slater. Now, will you give me everything you can on your wife? Description and so on?
Yes, of course. They're on the table. I brought out a few photos.
How old?
27. Oh, yes. That one was snapped on Mondego Beach. Very striking woman, isn't she?
Yeah.
And this one was taken while we were anchored off Hilo last summer.
You get around.
Travel has its advantages, Mr. Donner.
This your boat?
Yes, in dry dock at the moment. As a matter of fact, I met Celia when I put into Las Cruces instead of Acapulco. And it seemed that she, too, wanted to travel.
Where do you think she's traveling now?
I haven't the faintest idea. As I started to tell you, I'd been troubled by certain suspicions. She was seeing entirely too much of a young doctor in Bridgeport. His name is Masterson. Dr. Charles Masterson.
You think he could have something to do with her disappearance? Is that what you mean?
I shouldn't like to say. I believe that she is a quite perfect physical specimen, yet she visited this doctor fellow at least 3 times per week.
Yeah? Anything else?
As a matter of fact, yes. We were in Acapulco 2 years ago when anchored off
the rest of the story wasn't too far from typical, although I don't meet too many of the breed. A, the 55-year-old Woodstock, captain because he owned a schooner, had dedicated his life to what he called adventure. And B, the 28-year-old Celia, had also dedicated her life to what she called adventure. The results were a number of voyages. And finally, Celia Woodstock's disappearance. I found the private investigator David Slater in a conservatively crummy suite of offices on Front Street in Bridgeport.
Well, you've met him, so you know what type he is. Yes, I followed his wife.
Oh, what did she do?
Got a report on every move she made for months. You want to see it?
Not if you remember the highlights. What about this Dr. Charles Masterson?
Well, doctors are hard to pin down, you know that. She went to his office 3 times a week, but she never met him anyplace else. Maybe she was sick.
Her husband says no.
Well, I didn't find out. I couldn't have talked to the doctor without letting out who I was. He had a nurse who quit the day before I left the case.
You didn't talk to her?
I was going to, but after I left, I didn't. Why should I?
Do you know who she is, where I can find her?
Yes, her name is Janet Squire. She went to work in the Red Cross Blood Collection Center up on Union.
Good, thanks. Now, what about the day Mrs. Woodstock dropped out of sight? Was there anything special?
Why, sure there was something special. I wouldn't have lost her. I'm no rookie in this business. She bought a ticket to New York City on the 345. So did I. I got in the same car that she did. I didn't see her, but I figured she was powdering her nose or something. When she didn't show before the train left, I went through the rest of the cars, but I never picked her up after that.
She knew you were tailing her, huh?
Well, she must have. Must have got on the car and then right off. That and the money she drew out of the bank makes me think that she was running out on old Woodstock and nothing else.
No money was mentioned to me.
Well, that's funny. Woodstock knew about it. $2,000 the morning she left.
Huh. I wonder what else that old renegade is holding out on me.
The phone calls she made?
No, he didn't say anything about phone calls.
She made quite a few from public booths. I finally got into one next door. I couldn't get the number, but she talked to somebody named Sprague. She didn't say much but the name, and then asked, where do you want me to meet you? And when she was answered, she said, all right, I'll let you know when everything is arranged. Well, that's all.
Well, that's enough for me. If he thinks he's got a free wife chaser, he's mistaken.
You gonna drop it?
Sure, that's the way it is. I gave up that kind of work a long time ago. I don't like it. It's Dollar, Captain.
Get in and close the door.
What's this? Where's Woodstock?
Close the door. If you do anything else, I'll kill you.
Where's Woodstock?
He's gone. Now walk backwards. Down the hall.
Why?
Go on or I'll shoot. Stop now and turn around. Open the door. And get in the closet.
Now, wait a minute.
Please, please, mister, do what I tell you. It won't make any difference if I kill you.
Okay.
Close it.
When I heard the front door slam, I started kicking my way out. The paneling was heavy, and it cost me a torn trouser leg and a scraped shin before I made it. Mrs. Woodstock. Mrs. Woodstock. Hello. Hello, operator. Hello. He'd given himself some more time by pulling out the phone wires, but it took less than 5 minutes for me to cover some 200 yards to the nearest neighbor, explain myself, and get through to the Bridgeport police. A short time after that, I met Homicide Lieutenant Al Jester, and with him, Watch 2 ambulance attendants start Mrs. Woodstock toward the hospital.
Oh, Joe, you're in lumbar cases. Keep the feet down.
What's their condition, boys? Can you tell?
It's bad, Lieutenant. Her right lung.
Yeah, no chance of a statement.
We'll do what we can, Lieutenant. Hold it, Joe. All right. I got these steps.
Well, I guess it depends on her how easy or how hard this is going to be.
Yeah, but better not count on it. I've been disappointed too often. How did Slater's story strike you?
Well, I had no reason not to believe him. He said as far as he was concerned, the girl was running out on her husband. The more I saw of it, the more it looked that way to me, too. Then I came out here to drop the case, and it blew up in my face.
The man you described, could he have been this Sprague?
Yeah, he could have. I didn't ask him. He was half crazy. If he was Sprague and I'd thrown the name at him, he'd have killed me. It was that bad.
Yeah. Could you describe the gun?
Yeah, it was a cheap revolver. Nickel-plated with a short barrel. Caliber was .32.
You sure of that?
Oh, I guess a smart lawyer could keep me from swearing it was a .32, but it was.
I'll take that.
I got only one definite thing out of him. He said Woodstock was gone. That's all he'd say. Then he put me in the closet. I didn't hear him drive away. I was kicking up some noise getting through that door. But the people in the house where I phoned said they saw the car leave. It's the next house, that way.
I'll check.
Lieutenant Chester.
Yeah.
You better go upstairs. We're shooting up there, too.
Where?
In the hallway toward the back. There's no question about this one. He's dead.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? As a statesman, he showed great strength. He was a defender of religious liberty and continually attempted to strengthen the national unity of the state. He influenced the writing of our Constitution, and with Alexander Hamilton and John Jay, wrote the famous Federalist Papers, considered one of the best analyses of the Constitution. He ran for the first United States Senate, but was defeated. Then he served an 8-year term as representative from Virginia. During the War of 1812, when the British attacked Washington, D.C., he and his wife were forced to flee for their lives. If you don't have his name by now, here's one more clue. During his administration, Louisiana and Indiana joined the Union. Who was he? James Madison, 4th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Right back there, Lieutenant.
Yeah, I see him.
Woodstock? Yeah, let me see. Yeah. That's who it is.
Get some light on in the room, huh?
Yes.
Shot from behind.
There's a gun on the floor, Lieutenant.
Well, that guy told you Woodstock was gone, Dollar.
Well, he couldn't have been more right, could he?
I guess not. Well, let's get out of here until the photographers show up.
By the end of that first day, the description of the man I'd tangled with had been broadcast, along with a possible description of the car he was driving. Celia Woodstock hadn't died, but she hadn't regained consciousness either. I took a hotel room in Bridgeport that night where I'd be called if and when anything happened. Nothing did. The next morning, I went to the Red Cross Blood Collection Center to talk with a nurse who had recently resigned from the office of Celia Woodstock's friend and/or doctor.
Mr. Clark and Mr. Gibson, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, please.
I'd come in with my mind tossing motives for murder around. Motives of personal greed and selfishness and hate. And it was almost a shock to suddenly face a segment of this country, citizens, old ones, young ones, men and women, quietly going about the business of helping the best way they knew how. I stayed to give my own blood after Janet Squire talked with me, and I knew it would go out of the center in the best of company.
We can go in here, Mr. Dollar.
Thanks. I'm sorry to bother you, Miss Squire, but I was told you were in Dr. Charles Masterson's office until a short time ago.
Yes, that's right.
I'm working with the police on a case. I'd like to learn as much as I can about Mrs. Woodstock.
Well, I'm afraid I know very little. She was a patient of Dr. Masterson's, but other than that, I know nothing.
Her husband seemed to have the idea that she might be more than just a patient.
That there might have been romantic interest between them?
Yeah. Was there?
Not that I know of. I make it a point to do very little prying into other people's affairs, Mr. Dollar.
Sometimes I wish I could. Do you know anything about anyone named Sprague?
Sprague? No, I'm afraid I don't. I'm sorry.
So am I. I hope the results are better when you start working on me. A telephone check with Lieutenant Jester about an hour later added nothing. He'd been in communication with Mexican authorities, but they were unable to come up with any leads on Celia Woodstock or even any proof that she'd been in the Acapulco vicinity 2 years ago when Woodstock told me he had married her. Homicide men were searching the captain's schooner, and they were still working on the name Sprague. I played my last card and went to see Dr. Masterson.
I was shocked when I read about it. It's tragic. But, Mr. Dollar, I'm sure you realize why my name mustn't be dragged into this.
It won't be if it doesn't belong there, Doctor.
Why, there was absolutely no basis for his suspicion. Whatever made him say anything like that?
He had a detective following her. He had an idea that she came to your office too often.
And why didn't he talk to her?
He did. She said something about a sinus condition and heat treatments.
That's precisely the truth. I resent your attitude, Mr. Dollar.
Well, that puts us on a par. Your attitude doesn't set so well with me. Keeping your name out of this case isn't as important as clearing it up, no matter what you think.
But I know nothing about it.
Well, you must have talked to the woman. As often as she was here, you must have become fairly well acquainted.
Well, no better acquainted than with most of my patients.
I don't ask for any more. What did she talk about?
Why, the conversations were unimportant. She talked about her travels. They'd come here from Florida to have some work done on their yacht.
Did she talk about her husband?
Yes, occasionally. General things.
Never anything about unhappiness? About leaving him?
No. They were planning on a trip to South America in a few months.
Dr. Masterson, did she ever mention anyone named Sprague?
Sprague? Well, this is one of the strangest things that's happened to me in a long time.
Why?
Well, the last visit Mrs. Woodstock made, in the afternoon, about a week ago, someone telephoned and asked for a Mrs. Emile Sprague. My nurse and receptionist called in and asked if Mrs. Sprague could answer the phone.
Was the nurse Miss Squire?
No, she had just left me. It was Miss Hall, who didn't know my patients by name. But when Mrs. Woodstock heard the name Sprague, she went into hysterics. I gave her a sedative. When she was calmed, I wanted to ask about what had happened, but, well, I didn't. There was something about her that begged me not to. I decided to wait until she came back, but she never did.
Well, so it's Emil Sprague now.
I'm sorry I was hesitant, Mr. Dollar.
Well, it's in the works now. We'll see what we can make out of it.
How is Mrs. Woodstock?
Still alive. Those chest things are bad, though. Here's how the shooting stacks up so far. She was wounded by 38 caliber slugs. Her husband was killed by 32s. So if you were right on your gun description, the man you ran into killed her husband.
Now, what does that leave us? Woodstock killing his wife?
Well, he was shot from behind while he was going into the upstairs room, apparently chased up there. He had a gun in his hand that he dropped when he was hit. That was the gun we found on the floor, the 38 caliber.
Ballistics hasn't run any comparison tests yet.
No, not yet. I'll let you know as soon as we get a report.
Close to 12 that night, the lieutenant phoned me that Mrs. Woodstock was finally responding to treatment and would likely live. I was at the hospital at 12:30, but it wasn't until almost 3 that Lieutenant Jester and I were told that Mrs. Woodstock was conscious and able to answer questions.
Good morning, Mrs. Woodstock. Are you feeling better? My name is Lieutenant Jester, and this is Mr. Dollar. We're both interested in what happened at your house the other evening.
Mrs. Woodstock, do you understand what we're saying to you? Do you understand?
My husband, Lyle, they told me he was all right. Is he?
Well, he was shot. Did they tell you that?
Yes.
Do you know who did it?
Yes, I know. I was there.
I remember.
We wish you'd tell us, Mrs. Woodstock.
Emil Sprague?
Yes. Yes, Emil. No one else was there. He made me go
Made you go where?
to my house and talk to my husband.
Emil Sprague made you go? Why?
How could he make you go?
Because I'm Mrs. Ann.
You're Mrs. Emil Sprague? You were married to Sprague. Your marriage to him was never ended, but you married Woodstock anyway.
Yes. I was wrong. I lied. I didn't tell him. Then it was money. He wanted money.
Sprague did.
Yes. I didn't know where he was. In Mexico. I had to get away. And I married my husband. That's all that matters.
I'm afraid it isn't.
Sprague followed you here.
From Florida. I begged him not to.
That $2,000 you drew from your bank.
I gave it to him. But it wasn't enough. He made me stay with him. He made me go with him for more money. And my husband, I tried to make him understand. He wouldn't. He blamed me, called me things. Went to the drawer. Why didn't he shoot him? Instead of me.
Are you sure of that? Woodstock shot you?
Going to the drawer. I remember. Turning around with a gun. That's all.
Huh. Do you know where Sprague would go?
Back to Florida.
Well, we don't think so. We've got a good description of him and the car he was driving. We think he's still in Bridgeport someplace.
You said you were with him. Where?
We had a room on Commercial Street, 713.
Is it a rooming house?
No, a big building. An apartment.
Which one is Sprague's?
It's number 12 on the second floor.
Does he have a phone in the room?
Yes. Elmwood 42132.
Thank you. We won't bother you anymore.
Thanks, Mrs. Woodstock.
I want to help my husband. I'll do anything I can. I want him to know that.
We'll tell him, Mrs. Woodstock.
Lieutenant. The men should be set at the back of the building.
All right, Sergeant. You'll go in with me. It's that corner room up there. There's a door to another room right across from his, so we want to keep him from firing if we can.
All right, let's go across. Good luck. Lieutenant! The window! He's onto us. He's been watching at the window. I saw him move.
Well, we better see what you can do on the phone then, Dollar.
Phone? We thought if you couldn't catch him off guard, we'd try and talk him out.
And there's a payphone in the hallway. His room's just to the right at the top of the stairs there.
That phone is right in line from up there.
Now we'll cover him. Okay, Dollar, if you're ready.
He won't answer.
It's ringing.
I didn't hear it upstairs.
He'll do something with it. Hello. Hello, Sprague?
Yeah?
We just got a complete statement from Mrs. Woodstock. Your blackmail, the works.
She's alive?
Yeah, she's gonna make it.
I thought she was dead. I saw her fall. I killed him because I thought she was dead. If I'd have known, I wouldn't have killed him. I should have found out.
You should have done a lot of things. What we want you to do right now is give yourself up without any trouble. Every door in the building is covered by police. We want you to come out of your room and down the stairs with your hands out where we can see them. Do you understand that? Are you listening to me? Come on, Sprague. Come on out and make it easy for...
Stairs. Look out!
Down, Dollar!
Stay there, Sergeant. Be careful.
It's all right. Sprague? Sprague? He's dead, Lieutenant.
Sergeant?
Yes, sir?
I'll go phone in. Keep the people away as best you can.
Expense account item 2, $45, miscellaneous, hotel, meals, etc. Expense account total, $73.60. Remarks? I understand the lawyers for the Woodstock estate are already measuring ways and means to cut the bigamous wife out of the estate. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Gil Dowd with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Howard McNear, Victor Rodman, Ken Christie, Virginia Gregg, Bill Conrad, Edgar Barrier, and Jim Nusser. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, has been a presentation of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service. For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as...
Johnny Dollar.
Dave Brace, Johnny. Plymouth Mutual.
Oh, hiya, Dave.
Johnny, sapphires are bad luck.
Yeah, so are black cats.
Cats don't get stolen, though. Or at least we don't insure them.
How much?
$30,000. Does the name Benny Stark mean anything to you?
Benny Stark. Yeah, jewel thief. Couple of convictions. I haven't heard of him lately.
Well, you're hearing now. He called us from Rockport, outside of Chicago. Wants to talk a deal. He apparently has the sapphire necklace.
Who's your client, Dave?
A girl named Ellen Beauregard. Big wheel in Rockport society. I've already made your plane and hotel reservations and gave Benny your name.
Right here, I have a few words to say, and I'll say them as quickly as possible. You know, someone once said that everyone and everything in America depends on speed, and that as our country grows older, we all move faster. But it wasn't much more than 100 years ago that the fastest anyone could travel was at the speed of a running horse, which wasn't very fast when you compare it to the speed of our latest jet plane, and talk about going to the moon at 25,000 miles an hour. And during that same 100 years or so, we've grown from the first crude telegraph to the perfection of color television. Yes, this increased speed in transportation, communication, and everything else has changed almost everything in our country, including the Cabinet of the United States. For example, up to World War II, there wasn't any reason why the War and Navy departments shouldn't be directly responsible to the President. But then, there was a growing need for the speeding up of military action and decision, calling for unified commands and a more closely knit integration of military activities. Thus, our Department of Defense was born, creating a new cabinet post to coordinate and to execute the overall general policies relating to the armed forces. And the secretary heading this new Department of Defense became the representative to the President for the newly designated secretaries of the Army, Navy, and more recently, the Air Force. In the future, our fast-moving world may add even more members to the President's cabinet to ensure the safety and well-being of our United States.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Plymouth Mutual Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Beauregard Matter. Expense account item 1, $58.40. Airfare and incidentals to Rockport, Illinois. I checked into the Bleecker Hotel and waited for a contact from one Benny Stark, jewel thief. I planned to see the Beauregards later, but instead the Beauregards came to see me. Or anyway, one of them did.
I'm Jared Beauregard, Mr. Dollar. It was my niece, Ellen, from whom the necklace was stolen. May I...
Oh, sure. Come in, Mr. Beauregard. Have a seat.
Thank you, sir.
This is a little unexpected. I just got in town.
Well, Mr. Brace of the insurance company wired that you were coming. I wanted to talk to you before you saw Ellen.
Oh, I see.
My niece is a remarkable girl, Mr. Dollar. A trifle headstrong at times, though, and not always inclined to use the best judgment.
Well, I guess that could apply to most of us.
Yes, yes, of course. Tell me, Mr. Dollar, do you have any hope that the necklace may be recovered?
I think so. It's fairly certain, in fact.
Well, Ellen will be very happy. It was an engagement gift, you understand, from Phil Avery, her fiancé. She was quite broken up when it was stolen.
Yes, I imagine. $30,000 is quite a loss.
Well, it's more the sentiment attached than the beauty of it. You've seen the necklace, Mr. Dollar?
No, but I have photographs of it.
Oh, yes, from the insurance company. Well...
About your niece, Mr. Beauregard. Just what was it you wanted to tell me?
Well,
excuse me. Johnny Dollar.
This is Benny, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, okay, shoot.
You know where the Pink Pigeon is?
No, but I'll find it.
Well, it's south of town. I'll meet you there at 9 o'clock tonight. Back booth behind the bar. Make it?
Yeah, sure. Have you, got the item?
I got more than that. I got information that'll blow the lid off. I've been double-crossed, Dollar, and I'm going to get even.
What do you mean, double-cross?
Uh-huh. First, we make a deal. See you tonight.
I've got to run along, Mr. Dollar. I didn't really have anything in particular, just that, well, Ellen is too impulsive sometimes, but she never means any harm by it. I'm sure you understand.
Expense account item 2, $14 to hire a car. Benny was on ice until 9 o'clock, so I decided to call on Ellen Beauregard, the girl who was too headstrong and impulsive, but didn't mean any harm by it. Uncle Jarrett was wrong, though. I didn't understand. I left the car near the Beauregard coach house and walked down the terrace toward the entrance. Ahead of me, in a glassed-in sunroom, a man and a girl were so busy with each other that they didn't even notice me. A highly romantic scene. The mistress of the house, probably. The only trouble, though, she was wearing a maid's uniform. She was still a little flushed when she answered the door.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'd like to see Miss Ellen Beauregard. My name is Johnny Dollar.
Dollar? You're the investigator on the robbery.
Dave must have wired everybody in town.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Won't you come in?
Thanks.
If you'll wait there, please, I'll tell Miss Beauregard you're here.
Yeah, right.
Bye, Ellen. See you later. Oh, hello. You must be the insurance fellow?
You, too.
Ellen said you were due in town today. I'm Phil Avery, Mr. Dollar.
How do you do?
Ellen and I are engaged. I gave her that necklace that was stolen.
Yes, I know.
I certainly hope you can get it back. The insurance won't cover the sentimental value.
Sentimental value?
Yes. Oh, I know. I saw you come up on the terrace, but appearances are deceiving sometimes. I wouldn't want you to misunderstand.
Oh, I think I understand perfectly, Mr. Avery.
Good. Well, I got to run. My offices are in the Central Bank building. Drop in if there's any information you'd like.
Thanks, I will.
Bye.
I'm awfully sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Dollar.
Quite all right, Miss Beauregard. Gave me a chance to meet your fiancé.
Oh, isn't Phil a darling? Headstrong sometimes, impulsive, but he...
That never means any harm by it, that is?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Well, I suppose you want to know all about the robbery.
No, I think I know most of it already. I would like to see the safe, though.
Oh, yes, of course. It's over here behind the painting. You've just got to find that necklace, Mr. Dollar. I feel so guilty about it.
Guilty? Why?
Well, because it was a gift from Phil, and not that I was careless, but... well, I'm sure you understand. Here it is, back of the portrait.
An old-fashioned one, huh?
Everything in the house is. Our family's been around quite a while.
Yes. Wouldn't be much of a job for a professional safecracker. How'd they get into the house, Miss Beauregard? Force a lock somewhere?
No, they must have had a key. You see, I'd gone out for the afternoon, and Uncle Jarrett was off somewhere, and the house was empty.
Your maid wasn't here?
Lois? No, after I left, she decided to go into town to do some shopping or something. Oh, they couldn't have picked a better time.
No, they couldn't have.
Oh, say, incidentally, you'll probably be talking to Uncle Jarrett, and I wanted to warn you about him. Of course, he means well, but...
Is he headstrong and impulsive, too?
No, it's just that he's, well, a little vague. I'm sure you understand, Mr. Dollar.
It was nearly dark when I left, filled with understanding and with a lot of questions about the Beauregard establishment that still needed answering. I started to open the door of my car when I caught a flash of white at the corner of the coach house. Somebody had seen me and then tried to duck out of sight. I walked across the drive and moved quietly up to the corner. Evening, Lois. Can I help you with that?
No, I was just going to burn some trash.
Well, fine. Let me put it in the incinerator for you.
No, please.
Oh, it's no trouble. I'll just... Hey, have you sorted through this? There's something heavy inside these papers.
Please, let me have it. You won't understand.
Well, you're the first one around here who hasn't thought so.
Lois!
She sounds impatient. You better run along. I'll take care of this for you.
No, please, you... Oh.
I knew what it was already. And in a moment, I had it unwrapped. A .32 caliber revolver. And one chamber had been fired recently.
Mr. Dollar?
I slipped the gun in my pocket and shoved the papers into the incinerator.
Mr. Dollar?
Right here, Miss Beauregard.
Oh, I saw your car was still in the driveway, and I...
Just checking the layout of the grounds. I'm leaving now.
Oh. Lois just came in from somewhere in this direction.
Oh?
Was she talking to you by any chance?
Oh, we passed the time of day.
Well, don't believe anything she tells you.
Any definite reason why not?
Oh, I've caught her in all sorts of lies. I didn't want to say anything inside. She might have been listening.
How long has she been with you?
4 months. She goes out in the afternoon sometimes, and I know she lies about where she's been.
Do you think she had something to do with the robbery?
I don't know. I'm only suggesting that you check very carefully on anything she might tell you.
Well, if she's like you say, why have you kept her?
Well, I've been planning to let her go, but... Well, objections were raised.
Who raised the objection?
Uncle Jarrett.
When I got back to the hotel and went to my room, I had another surprise waiting for me.
Come right in, son. Have a seat.
Oh, thanks. I could be in the wrong room, of course.
Not if you're Mr. Dollar. You know a fellow named Benny Stark?
Not exactly. I'm looking forward to meeting him, though.
I see. You got business with him?
I might. Do I have any with you?
My name's Cotton, Mr. Dollar. I'm the chief of police here.
Oh, I see. How did you get on to me?
Found your name where Stark had written it down. Had your room number here at the hotel. He a friend of yours?
Well, I guess we might as well work together, Chief. I'm an insurance investigator, checking on that Beauregard robbery.
Ah, so that's it.
Stark is a jewel thief. He phoned the company and offered to talk a deal. I've got an appointment with him at 9 tonight.
Yeah, I don't reckon you're going to be able to keep it.
Why not?
Because this Stark fella got himself shot a few hours ago. Real shot. Dead, in fact.
Murdered?
Yep. Found him in a rooming house over across town. You wouldn't know anything about it, would you, Mr. Dollar?
I might. What kind of a gun was it?
32 revolver, according to the lab.
Well, this might be the gun.
Been fired, all right. Where'd you get it?
I took it away from Lois, the Beauregard's maid. He was trying to hide it in the incinerator. You might have it checked, but I doubt if it's registered.
It's registered.
Huh?
We don't have many guns around town here. I recognize this one. Belongs to Jared Beauregard.
Uncle Jared, huh? What about these Beauregards? Who are they? What are they?
Old line family, 4 generations. Just the two of them now, Jared and Ellen. Not as wealthy as they once were, maybe. You never know, though. Lately, at least, Jared seems to have plenty of money.
Lately?
Oh, not just since the robbery, if that's what you think. And I meant the last 4 or 5 months.
What about this Phil Avery?
Been here a couple of years. Fine young fellow, civic leader. Everybody was pretty tickled when they got engaged last spring. Figured they was meant for each other.
Well, he goes in for lavish gifts, at least.
Expecting anybody?
No. Who is it?
Lois, I've got to talk to you, Mr. Dollar.
Just a second. You want to dodge into the bathroom and listen in?
Good idea.
Come in, Lois.
Thank you. I've got to have it back, Mr. Dollar.
What?
The gun. Oh, please, Mr. Dollar, it's not the way it looks. Someone's trying to get me in trouble. I found the gun.
Where?
Hidden under the mattress of my bed. I got scared. I was trying to get rid of it when you stopped me. Tonight in the paper it says a man's been shot.
Did you know him?
No.
You know whose gun this is?
No, I don't know anything about it. Give it to me, please.
I'd like to, Lois, but I'm afraid it's not that simple. All right, Chief.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? As a boy, his general health was bad. But as a man, he was a dynamo of energy. He was only 42 when he became president, the youngest man ever to hold that position. His administration was a fairly untroubled one. There was still no income tax. Other taxes were comparatively low. And the United States was in a peaceful era. Conservation of our natural resources was one of his greatest concerns as president. And in 1902, he signed a bill putting the Reclamation Act into action. If you don't have his name by now, here's one more important clue. During his administration, work was begun on the Panama Canal. Who was he? Theodore Roosevelt, 26th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Expense account item 3, $2.90. 2 hamburger steak lunches the next day at noon in the Bleecker Hotel Grill. Apparently a favorite daytime eating place for the president of the Central City Bank.
Hey, oh, my, that's fine. Say, you mind passing me that Tabasco sauce, Mr. Dollar?
Oh, here you are.
Oh, I love it on hamburger. I love hamburger, for that matter. Just a proletarian at heart, I guess.
Maybe so, but you've got some pretty aristocratic clients, haven't you?
Well, that's a bank for you. Guess you mean the Beauregard. Well, here, try some of the sauce.
Thanks.
My. Oh, they're aristocratic enough as far as the family background is concerned. A social position, that sort of thing, but When it comes to money, that's another story. When you want to know about a man's economic status, just ask his banker.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah, so you are. Now, you understand, Mr. Dollar, that I wouldn't ordinarily let this information out.
Yes,
The fact is, though the town figures they're rolling in it, the Beauregards are broke. Near flat broke. They have been for a couple of years.
What about that house? The estate?
No, it's mortgaged to the hilt. Like a few other properties, they've still managed to hang on to. But cash, no, they haven't got it. You going to eat that butter, Mr. Dollar?
Huh? Oh, no. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. Except the last 3 or 4 months. You know, it's a funny thing. Old Jarrett seems to be going around with a pocket full of money. Probably borrowing it from his prospective son-in-law.
Phil Avery, huh? How is he fixed financially?
Oh, how is he fixed? A man who can afford a $30,000 engagement gift? I've never looked through his account, but I'd say that if he doesn't have it, he soon will have. Oh, my, that boy's a go-getter.
Pretty well thought of, huh?
Elected him to the board of directors of the bank last month. You're not going to eat that roll? Oh, thank you. I don't know how he finds time for it, that boy. He's got a half a dozen jobs already. He had to postpone his wedding, even. They were supposed to get married 3 weeks ago.
Oh, I see. Lois, the Beauregard maid, wouldn't have anything to do with that, would she?
Oh, gossip. Oh, it gets around, that gossip. Well, she's a pretty little thing, you know. And a man who's about to tie himself down for life, well, you know how that is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it'd be just too bad if Ellen found out about it, though. This town would be in for some real excitement if she found... Oh, would you pass that sauce again, Mr. Dollar?
Come in.
Afternoon, Chief. I have a couple... Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were busy.
Oh, that's all right. Come on in. You know Mr. Avery, I believe.
Yes, we've met.
How are you, Mr. Dollar? Glad you came. This concerns you, too.
Well, Mr. Avery figures we're doing this girl Lois an injustice.
She's not involved in any of this, Mr. Dollar, either the theft or the murder. She's not the kind. I know her.
Oh, well, Mr. Avery.
Well enough to know that she's a pretty fine person.
The only trouble is, Mr. Avery, I've got a pretty strong case against the girl. She was trying to dispose of the murder gun. If she'd know the time, the house would be empty to set up the robbery. She could have given Benny Stark a key to get in.
One thing, though, Chief Cotton. We haven't found the necklace. Unless she can be tied up with that, the case won't stand.
We're still looking.
What about her room at the Beauregards? Or places around the house that she might have access to?
First thing in the morning, we're going to take it to pieces, Mr. Dollar.
You won't find a thing. Wait and see.
I'm afraid that's what we'll have to do, Mr. Avery. Wait and see. Well, you go on back and talk to her if you want. I told Ed you could have 15 minutes.
Thanks, Chief Cotton. See you, Mr. Dollar.
Right.
Now, what's on your mind, Mr. Dollar?
Jewelers. This is a photo of that necklace. Do you know any jeweler here in town who could make a duplicate, imitation?
No. Have to go to Chicago for that.
Well, that's what I want to know. Whether somebody did go into Chicago 4 or 5 months ago.
Well, I could get Jim over here from Hawkley's jewelry store. He could give him a technical description over the phone. Chicago police work pretty fast. Might have some information back by this evening.
Good. I'll wait to hear from you. There was nothing more I could do until I heard from the Chicago police. So I went to my hotel room to wait it out. Johnny Dollar.
Ellen Beauregard, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, yes, Miss Beauregard.
We wondered if you'd come out to dinner tonight.
Well, that's awfully nice. Yes, I'd like to.
Good. Just the family. 7 o'clock, all right?
Fine. See you then. Expense account item 4, $14. Car rental for an additional 24 hours to attend dinner party at home of client. I arrived at 6:45, parked by the coach house, and then at 7 o'clock, I joined Phil Avery in the billiard room. We were about to start a game when the phone call I'd been hoping for came through. I took it on the extension in the entry hall. Johnny Dollar.
Chief Cotton, Mr. Dollar, just got word from Chicago.
Oh, good. Any luck?
Yes, they located the custom jeweler who made fitted well.
Did he remember the client?
Yes. A girl whose description fits Ellen Beauregard to a T.
Then it all adds up. Oh, I found the necklace, by the way.
Well, maybe I'd better come out there.
The sooner the better, Chief. I'll see you. Well, good evening, Mr. Beauregard.
You've discovered our little family secret, I take it.
I'm afraid so.
I knew you would. I want to tell you, I warned Ellen, but she's headstrong. Of course, it was legal in the beginning.
But not later.
No.
You'd better ask Ellen to come down.
As you wish, Mr. Dollar.
Well, shall we start the game, Mr. Avery?
Right. Go ahead and break them. Let's make it straight pool, huh?
Okay.
Good start. 2 on the break.
Like shooting quail in the brush. 4 ball in the corner pocket. By the way, Mr. Avery, you were right about Lois. She isn't guilty. She was being framed.
I told you so.
She's not involved in any of this except as an innocent bystander. Even though I found the necklace a little while ago hidden in her room.
You found it? Oh, good.
The Beauregards, though, are not quite so innocent.
Hmm?
A 7 ball in the side pocket.
What do you mean?
The Beauregards needed money. They were still keeping up a front, but they were broke. And when you started getting interested in Ellen, they figured you were their answer.
You make her sound pretty cold-blooded.
Oh, I don't think there was much love lost on either side. You were playing the same game.
Now, wait a minute.
It was a natural the way you saw it. Ellen, the last of an old line family, prominent, wealthy. Why, she was the key to open any door in town. So you gambled your stake on a $30,000 gift to show her that you weren't a fortune hunter.
Mr. Dollar, I don't like this.
12 ball in the far corner. Then, about a month ago, you had a chance to see the Beauregard accounts at the bank. Why, they were broker than you were.
I wasn't marrying Ellen for money.
Only trouble was you couldn't stand losing that 30-grand necklace. So you brought Benny Stark in, and he stole it for you. But when he gave it to you, he told you it was phony, and you thought he was double-crossing you. He got sore and decided to try for a deal with the insurance company. And that's why you killed him.
You're accusing me of murder, Mr. Dollar?
Let's see now, the 8 ball in the end pocket. Well, who else, Mr. Avery? Lois wasn't involved, except that you tried to frame her. The Beauregard knew the sapphire necklace was an imitation. You were the one who didn't.
It wasn't an imitation. I paid $30,000 for it.
Not this one. Ellen sold yours a month after you gave it to her. They've been living on the money. She had this one made in Chicago.
That dirty look.
Another clincher. You were the only one who heard me tell Chief Cotton that we'd have to find the necklace before we could convict Lois. So you brought it here tonight and planted it. Well, apparently I don't have to go on.
No, you don't.
Did you steal that gun from Uncle Jarrett, too?
Oh, no. This is my own. Better lay down that cue now and get your hands up. Slow and easy.
And if I don't, you...
Thanks, Miss Beauregard!
Mr. Dollar.
How? A billiard cue makes quite a weapon.
What's this all about?
Well, it seems your fiancé is the lad who had your safe rifled and then later killed his partner.
Killed him?
Yeah, I guess murder is worse than fraud.
What do you mean?
You filed an insurance claim on a necklace you'd already sold. I rather imagine the company is going to prosecute. Chief Cotton's on the way, Miss Beauregard. Expense account item 5, $114.10. Hotel, incidentals, and transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $203.40. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
George Post, Mr. Dollar. Did you have a good trip?
Oh, yeah, fine flight. It's good to change that New England weather for your Arizona sunshine.
I hope you feel that way after we've talked over this case. How much did they tell you in Hartford?
Well, my getting out here in a hurry seemed to be more important than details. So all I know about the robbery is what broke in the papers. A $100,000 payroll stolen and 2 guards killed.
Those are the basic points. The police have got no place with it in 2 days. But if you're willing to take one of the biggest gambles of your life, we may be able to crack it.
We'll return to our program in just a few moments. But first, someone once said, necessity is the mother of invention. In other words, every inventor feels that there is a definite need for whatever he invents. It may be as large as a battleship or as small as a pin. But someone, somewhere, will find a use for it. And just to make sure that no one tries to cash in on his invention, every inventor carefully takes out a patent or copyright on whatever it is that he has invented. Where does he go to get his patents or copyrights? Probably to the Department of Commerce, since that is the prime concern of the department. For example, suppose you invent a widget with 2 handles instead of 1. Well, this means, of course, a big boon to widget users because it can now be operated by left-handed as well as right-handed people. Having invented a 2-handled widget, you and your inventive genius should be protected. So you contact the Commerce Department and apply for a patent. The department also registers the trademarks and labels you use in selling 2-handled widgets so that no one else can claim he invented the 2-handled widget and collect the money that should be rightfully yours when you make and sell your particular type of widget. Now, suppose you also write a book on the history of the 2-handled widget or a song titled The Love Song of the 2-handled widget. You take them to the Department of Commerce and have them copyrighted. This way, you can always prove that the book and the song are your property. So if some foreign inventor suddenly appears with the startling announcement that his country claims the honor of having invented the 2-handled widget or the one-wheel doohickey, you can prove he is mistaken by producing the prior patent you have registered with the United States Department of Commerce.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Plymouth Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Paul Gorrell matter. Expense account item 1, $153. Airfare and incidentals between Hartford and Phoenix, Arizona. On the way from my hotel to the Plymouth offices, I noticed that the afternoon papers were front-paging a report of the local killing of an unidentified man. I learned shortly afterward that the murder had an important bearing on my own foreseeable future. The story about it was displayed prominently on the desk of George Post, Plymouth's chief adjuster in Phoenix, when I got to his office.
You say that all you know of this case is what you read in the Eastern papers?
Yeah, that's right, and as you probably know, there weren't many details.
Yes, being that far removed, of course. Here, it's been the worst crime in years. The killing of the 2 guards was needless.
They weren't putting up a fight?
No. They've been disarmed with standing with their backs to the killer. They were shot down because there were potential identifying witnesses.
Nobody else saw it?
Yeah. Story in the lower right-hand corner.
Oh, yeah, I saw the headlines on the way over. What about it?
This picture here, the dead man, Palovic. He was the only other witness.
And the paper doesn't say anything about it?
The papers don't know it, and the police don't know it. There were two men involved in the robbery. Palovic was one of them.
Well, you must have some big reason to hold this kind of information from the police.
I have. Palovic phoned me the morning after the robbery, and I met with him in secret that afternoon. He told me that he'd broken off with his partner in the affair, a man using the name of Paul Gorrell. He said there'd been an agreement between them that there'd be no shooting, but that in spite of it, Gorrell shot the guards down in cold blood.
Well, did you ask him why he didn't go to the police if he was so interested in clearing himself of the killings?
He said he was on parole, would face an automatic 20-year term if he went to them.
What did he expect from you?
Nothing. He said he'd been in trouble with the law most of his life, but that he'd never killed anybody. He claimed that all he wanted was to stop Gorrell from enjoying what he termed that blood money. He told me where Gorrell is and what his plans are.
Is Gorrell still in Phoenix?
Yes. And I know what you're going to say, that you still think it's a job for the police.
Well, with 3 murders to his credit, I sure do.
We decided to try it our way because their plan was to mail the money out of the state. Palovic was sure that Gorrell has already sent it, but didn't know where, except that it was someplace in or near Los Angeles.
Uh-huh. Any idea how he's going to try to get out of town?
Yeah. It's one of those share the ride arrangements. You know, the kind that are advertised in the classified sections. This man is driving to Los Angeles and wanted passengers to share the expense and help with the driving.
Both of them are going in the same car?
Yeah.
And since Palovic isn't going, there's room for me, huh?
That's what I meant when I mentioned you're taking a gamble. There's no doubt that Gorrell is a completely ruthless killer. Now, will you go?
Well, I don't like it for a lot of obvious reasons. But I wouldn't like a reputation for turning down cases either. When do I leave? I understood why the company didn't want to involve the police. In their opinion, the chances were that more effort would be spent in apprehending the killer than in tracing down the money. But a big insurance company is one thing, and a private investigator working behind the law's back is another. And that was one thing I didn't like about the matter. Another that rang a little sour was Gorrell's choice of getaway method. The police admittedly had no witnesses and therefore no description. Yet Gorrell was avoiding public transportation. It made me wonder if somebody else could be looking for him. And still another thing. Gorrell would be in control of the situation. I wouldn't. I couldn't even afford the luxury of a gun for fear the bulge would arouse suspicion. The owner of the car for the trip was a Mr. Bovey, and I phoned him from post office.
You couldn't have read it in today's paper, Mr. Dollar. I canceled my ad last evening.
Well, I clipped the ad a day or so ago when I wasn't definite about my going to the coast. I hope you have room for me.
Well, I'm afraid I don't. I already have 2 gentlemen and a lady.
Well, but it's a sedan, isn't it? 5-passenger?
Yes, but 5 is too many. Uncomfortable for my people.
You're sure that all your people are still going?
I haven't heard to the contrary.
Well, you can't tell about people. Suppose we leave it this way. I'll come out to your house in the morning. If there's room for me, I'll go. If there isn't, I won't. Is that okay?
Well, if you want to take a chance, but don't expect to crowd in. I know from experience 5 is too many.
All right, Mr. Bovey. I'll see you in the morning then. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I suppose that was the only way to handle it. But how is Gorrell going to react to your being there?
No, I don't think it'll change things. A guy on his spot is going to be suspicious of everybody anyway. At 9 the next morning, I arrived at Bovey's address in a Phoenix suburb. He left me in a seedy living room while he put his luggage in a car that was parked at the curb in front of the house. And a minute after he came back in, the doorbell rang, and he let Gorrell in.
Just leave your luggage by the door, Mr. Gorrell. Your friend, he's not with you.
Brother came up. Some business deal, so he couldn't come.
But why didn't he let me know?
Yes, he figured I would, because I made all the arrangements with you. And all the time I thought he'd call.
Well, Mr. Dollar, did you hear that?
Yeah, looks like I'm in luck.
This is Mr. Gorrell.
How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Mr. Dollar came this morning just on the chance that this might happen, so there'd be room for him.
What, that somebody wouldn't show up? He must be psychic or something.
Oh, no. Guy's got to get the breaks once in a while.
Well, you two get acquainted while I pack the luggage.
You, live here in Phoenix?
No, I'm from the East. Connecticut.
To travel all the way out here this way? I mean, in people's cars like this?
Not all the way.
I think I'll go outside, see what's going on. I don't want Bovey scratching my bag up.
Nothing except two cold blue eyes that moved around too much would have given him away for what he was. The rest of his makeup, thin, triangular face, blonde hair, and slightly stooped figure, would have made him unnoticed in any company. By the time I followed him outside, the fourth member of our party had arrived. She was a not unattractive brunette wearing harlequin sunglasses that made her look frightened. I wondered how she'd look if she knew who her traveling companions were.
This is Miss Shelton and Mr. Dollar.
Miss Shelton?
Hi.
We're all loaded. All right, then we're ready. Now, how shall we arrange how you sit? Does anyone care?
Yeah, how about I take my turn driving first? I drove a cab for a while, and I know some quick ways out of town.
Well, that's fine. Miss Shelton, will you sit in the back with Mr. Dollar? I'd like to ride in front in my own car.
It's all right with me. Thank you, Mr. Dollar.
The starter's right there, Mr. Gorrell.
Yeah, I got it.
Well, now, I'd say we got a nice early start. Which way are you going, Mr. Gorrell? North on Mission Drive?
That's right. I turn off on Northern and hit the highway. Miss that long stretch of traffic out towards Peoria.
Yes, but now, this is out of the way.
It just seems like it. You leave it to me. I know this town like a book.
Whether Gorrell was missing some roadblocks that I knew nothing about, I couldn't be sure. But I wasn't sure his back road way out of town was working either. As we pulled away from Bovey's house, I glanced up the block and saw a green coupe nose into the street behind us.
You know this neighborhood, Dollar?
No, never been through it. Why?
The way you were looking around, if you were trying to spot an old landmark or something.
Well, just trying to memorize my way back in case you get lost.
You don't trust me? You want I should pull over so you can drive?
Please, Mr. Gorrell, he didn't mean anything like that. He was only making a joke.
What's the matter with him to get sore about a thing like that?
What did you say, lady? I didn't quite catch it.
You weren't supposed to catch it. I must say, this trip is off to a dandy start with you snapping everybody's head off.
Please, there's no reason for it to be unpleasant. We've got a long way to go.
That evening, with Bovey driving, we were approaching Blythe on the California border when the car began to heat up. By the time we found a garage on the outskirts of town, it was almost dark. The report from the mechanic was that the water pump had gone, but he couldn't get a replacement until morning. I expected an outburst from Gorrell because of the delay, and I was surprised at his reaction to Bovey's apology.
Oh, I just don't know what to say. I had the car gone over yesterday, and they told me everything was fine.
Not your fault, Mr. Bovey. Nobody could see inside that pump.
Oh, but I'm so sorry about the delay.
Nobody's worried about me.
For me, I'm glad it happened. I had enough of the road.
And I could use a good night's sleep. Well, I don't feel so bad then. The mechanic said the motor court in the next block is a nice place. Shall we go look at it?
Why not?
Might as well.
All right, come along then.
Wait a minute.
What's the matter?
Mr. Gorrell?
Make it on the inside. I can't let them see me.
He wanted to run as the green coupe slowly came abreast of us, but he didn't. I expected gunfire, but none came. Only the beam of a flashlight that held briefly on Gorrell and then snapped off. I spotted two men in the coupe as it rolled away from us. Then I turned with Bovey and the girl to see how Gorrell would explain himself.
Sorry. I thought it was somebody I knew. Somebody I didn't feel like talking to just now.
He didn't realize how lame the excuse was. I didn't think the others saw it, but from where I stood, I watched his hand streak for the automatic he wore under his arm. It was an instinctive move that he wasn't even aware of making. But from a man who had been relaxed and confident of a getaway, he'd turned back into an unpredictable killer.
You know, many great men have attained the highest office in our land, the presidency of the United States. Can you guess the name of this man? The presidency was the first and only public office he ever held. He never went to school, but was taught at home by a tutor. Like his father, he also became a military man and remained in the service until his nomination to the presidency in 1848. He was the second and last member of the Whig Party to become president. If you don't have his name by now, here's another clue. During his presidency, gold was discovered in California. Who was he? Zachary Taylor, 12th President of the United States. His life is part of your American heritage.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
I wanted to report the whole thing to the local police. If I had, I might have prevented a lot of trouble. But I didn't. We checked into the motor court, and about 20 minutes later, Gorrell showed up at my room.
Has Wolfie been to see you?
Why, no.
The Dane?
No.
I figured they might on account of that performance I put on out there. The truth is, I got in some trouble in Phoenix, and my nerves aren't so good.
That's okay. I'm not curious.
Yeah, well, I didn't want you to think I'm nuts or anything like that. I thought maybe you could tell the others. Yeah, I wouldn't want Bobby to dump me out of the trip. I haven't got enough to get to L.A. any other way. But look at this wallet. See? A single and one pin. That's my stake.
That's running pretty close. I wish I could help you out.
No, I'm not making a touch. I can scrape up some when I hit L.A., but... well, I'd like it if you told the others.
It's up to you.
Yeah, you see, I got into a card game with these two guys in Phoenix. I was drinking. I let the stakes get higher than I should have, and I lost more than I could pay. So, I ran out on them.
Those were the men that drove by?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were.
Well, if they followed you this far, don't you think they'll follow you the rest of the way?
I don't know. Say, you got anything lined up out there?
Oh, nothing definite. Why?
Well, if they're still on me, maybe I could use some help getting things straightened out, you know? I'd make it worth your while.
What kind of help?
I will see how things stack up when we get there. Anybody that travels like this could use a few extra bucks. You can't kid me there.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. You tell Bovey and the dame what I said. And then maybe you and me can give each other a hand.
Maybe. Well, I'll see you in the morning. I hear we're going to get an early start. It was about 4 p.m. when the share of the ride trip ended on a street corner in downtown Los Angeles. Bovey drove away, the Shelton girl disappeared in the crowds, and Gorrell and I took a cab.
The Prince Hotel on Spring Street. Right, get in, Dollar. Now, here's how it is. Before I left Phoenix, I shipped some of my stuff. Clothes, personal papers, and some cash that I didn't want to carry. You know, you can't tell what kind of people you're going to run into, travel and share the ride like we did.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Now, you see, if I get that suitcase, I can pay off. And these guys will have to leave me alone. But the way things are, I got an idea they'd beat my head off if they caught up with me. So it would be worth $25 if you'd go get that suitcase and bring it to me.
Oh, that sounds simple enough. I figured his pitch was based on desperation rather than stupidity. He knew he was still being followed, or he never would have trusted a stranger with $100,000 that had already been worth 3 killings. And his letting me get this close to it made me wonder whether the 4th killing wasn't already in his mind. We both checked into the Prince Hotel, and in his room, he gave me the express receipt I'd need to pick up the suitcase. I left him and made my first stop at a phone booth. I called the police, told them my story, and arranged to meet a plainclothes sergeant from homicide a block away from the express office.
Your name, Dollar?
That's right.
I'm Sergeant Mason. I don't know what to make of the story of yours.
Well, that's just why I asked if you could meet me. I want you on hand when I deliver that suitcase.
How come you didn't check with the Phoenix boys before you left? You like to stick your neck out, or you got some other reason?
I told the lieutenant it was the company's idea, not mine.
You got some identification?
Yeah. Here you are.
Yeah, okay, darling. But I don't go for you private boys that play at lone wolf till it gets too hot and then yell for us. I'll go along because I've been ordered to. But don't think I'm eager.
I gathered that. I took delivery of the suitcase without a hitch. Sergeant Mason was waiting halfway down the block when I came out with it. He trailed me back to the Prince Hotel and waited while I went ahead into the lobby. I got to Gorrell's floor, and when the sergeant was a few steps behind me, knocked on the door. Gorrell? Gorrell? It's Dollar.
Try the door. Well?
I'll take a look in there. Well, his stuff's still here. There's no sign of a struggle.
No sign of anything. You have any idea how empty the story of yours sounds, Dollar?
Yeah, I suppose it does. But how about coming to my room? We'll get this suitcase open.
No, not with me there. If you'd played it level with the Phoenix police and we had a go-ahead from them, yes. But I've got no right to break into somebody's personal property on your say-so.
You're leaving?
That's right. And if your story's true, I feel sorry for you. I'd hate to be playing it alone. But officially, you've given me nothing but a trip across town and some talk. I gotta have witnesses and evidence to work with. If you come up with some, just call the department.
I hope the company will remember Sergeant Mason's procedure the next time there's a choice between working with the police or without them. He had every right to walk out, and when he did, this is what he left me with. A, the obvious possibilities involving the suitcase and whoever was after it. And B, the fact that returning to Phoenix with the money and without Gorrell would put me in the light of aiding and abetting the escape of a murderer. It was then 6 o'clock. I checked Gorrell's suitcase at a bus station a short distance away. Then I grabbed a quick sandwich and went back to my room to wait. At 7:45, there was a knock on my door.
Aren't you going to invite me in?
Oh, sure. Sorry. You knocked me off balance a little. Come on in, Miss Shelton.
Thank you. I don't suppose there'd be a chance that you just listen to me without asking any questions and then do what I tell you to.
What would you tell me to do?
Pack up and get out of here. Out of town would be better.
Why?
Because without knowing it, you've got yourself mixed up with some bad people.
Who do you mean, Gorrell?
Yeah.
What about him? I didn't realize you knew him.
I don't. I mean, I didn't. Look, do you have to ask questions?
Well, I'm sure not going to pack up and move out of here just because you show up with some crazy talk about bad people.
Well, it's true. Gorrell was trying to use you to save his own skin. Did you go after a suitcase for him?
Yeah, but I didn't get it to him. He wasn't in his room when I got back.
I know that. Some men came after him. The same ones that we saw in Blythe. They might have killed him by now. And they're liable to kill you, too.
Where did you get all this?
Just believe me that it's true and get out of here. I can't say any more.
Come in. It's Gorrell.
Don't let him in, please.
I'll be right there. You get in there.
Yeah.
What happened to you?
Got away from him. Came for my suitcase. Good.
Wait.
Gorrell.
Wait. Is he dead?
No, not yet. Get my coat off the bed so I can stretch him out.
Well, maybe you'll believe me. I got to get out of here.
Oh, no, you don't.
Look, I didn't have to come here to warn you. I was trying to do you a favor. Is this what I get for it?
I'm sorry, but I can't let you go. Not with a man dying of gunshot wounds in my room. I've got to have some answers for the police. And it looks like you're the only one can give them to me.
I was roped into it like you. I didn't know what it was all about.
But you do now?
Yeah, and I don't want any part of it. Two guys I knew in Phoenix paid me $200 to take the trip from Phoenix and follow Gorrell when we got here. I was broke, and they said it was only a gag of some kind, so I took them up on it.
Those the two guys in the coupe?
Yeah. Then when they got to Gorrell tonight, and I heard them talking about robbery and killing, I began to catch on. They were the ones that pulled that payroll robbery in Phoenix.
You didn't know till then?
I sure didn't. Look, I'm no angel, but I'd never have anything to do with this kind of business.
Now, what's the rest of it?
Well, there were four of them that planned it, but Gorrell tried to get away with the money by himself. They mentioned something about a phone call from somebody named Polavic. Well, that's all I know.
Uh-huh. When they had Gorrell tonight, they were trying to find out where the suitcase was?
Yeah, that's right. They were hitting him and saying they'd kill him. But all he'd say was that somebody else had it. I figured it was you, and that's why I came. I tried to help you. Now, how about it? Can I go?
Yeah. And you'd better take the same advice you gave me. Go and keep going. You know too much about this mess. After she left, I called Sergeant Mason in the emergency hospital. Gorrell was still unconscious when I opened the door about 15 minutes later. I assumed it would be Mason, but it wasn't.
Back in the room, Dollar. I've got you. Is he dead?
He's close to it. Did that automatic put him where he is?
Stay out of what's none of your business, and you won't get some of the same.
Gorrell made it my business. He talked before he passed out.
That's too bad. Did he tell you he chalked up another killing to his credit tonight?
Oh, I guess he forgot that. The one who came with you from Phoenix?
A friend of mine. I've lost two of them over this, so don't you try to play it smart. You know what I'm here for.
You can look the place over. You won't find the suitcase.
You picked it up. Where is it?
Look in the top right drawer of the bureau.
Why?
Go ahead. You'll find a claim check in there. Nobody can get the suitcase without it.
Just don't say where it is. Where did you leave it?
It's in a bus station. If you leave by the rear door, you go down the alley to the...
You keep quiet. Quiet.
Paris.
Shut up. I'll get...
Come on in, Sergeant.
I've been knocking. By any chance? Huh? Which one's which?
That's Gorrell on the bed.
I guess he won't live long enough to profit by this. And I hope you will.
What?
No matter what side of the law you're on, don't pay to play at lone wolf like he was and like you were. Level with the police next time, huh?
Yeah. I'll remember that. Expense account item 2, $63.80. Miscellaneous between Los Angeles and Phoenix. Item 3, same as item 1, transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $369.80. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.